Hello everyone, Draj here. Welcome back to another Suggestion Saturday video. Now today I'm going to be talking a little bit lower. People I live with, they are sleeping right now. A lot came up today, so this video is going to be pretty late. Probably actually come out sometime Sunday, early Sunday morning, like 1 and 2 in the morning. But today I decided I was going to go over some more forum ideas that kind of caught my attention with the titles alone. And the first one I came across is Balancing Legacy and EOC. Okay, their biggest things are, I guess this is the top three bullet points. Well, there's actually a number of them as I go down. It says EOC offers no food mob runs with regenerate, borrows, slayer, etc. These trips are not often much slower than with food in EOC. Legacy has no equivalent. So, I understand what they're saying here, but the issue arises is basically you would have to take away from EOC. You couldn't really add to, you can't really say regeneration with borrows because Legacy has that already as well. It's no different. The only actual thing that EOC offers versus Legacy is the fact that there's actually abilities you can use to heal. That's actually the only, hold on a sec, thank you, sorry about that. That's actually the only thing EOC really has to offer is that some abilities can heal you. Otherwise, everything's really the same. Uh, and if somebody's using Regenerate, while it is really handy in, let's say, Dungeoneering, to actually go out for, Slayers or Borrows, it's really not very beneficial. Um, I understand, whenever you fight the Burroughs brothers before you go down to the final stage, you can kind of heal a very small amount, and it's probably going to be no more than maybe a couple hundred hit points. So it's not really too big of a deal. Um, Usually, if somebody is not having to heal, it's because they were able to get up to the highest they can and use something to actually heal, an ability to heal. And the important thing to try to keep in mind with this is, other than stuff like the sacrifice ability, I think it is, and one of the defensive abilities, which a lot of people, if they are doing, bars or Slayer, they're not traditionally using shields. Especially if they're that high a level where they're not going to need food, the odds is that they're not using shields. Like, even if they're fighting dragons, they're going to be using the super anti-fires. This way they don't have to worry about the fire. So the only thing is maybe just sacrifice ability. I know there is some abilities that are ultimates that you can use that'll heal you, but the legacy version of that is actually the enhanced Excalibur. It'll heal roughly, if not the same, but it also boosts your defense. So there is ways that they can actually have the same amount of healing effects apart from that one. EOC doesn't consume ammo or runes nearly as quickly as Legacy. That is true. If you do have, especially if you have certain types of gear, the consumption is a lot less. But now there is steps that you can actually take to help prevent that. As far as, ammo goes for ranging, is you can get the Ava's Accumulator, Ava's Alerter, etc. That will actually greatly help with the ammo consumption for that. However, runes, there's not really anything that can help combat with that. Um, and I don't think there's really a way they can change that other than, maybe making an item that can only be used in EOC, will only be used in Legacy. But even then, in the interest of, I know this might come out wrong, but in the interest of fairness, I don't think that would be really fair to punish some players that, they can get this item, but they have no real actual benefit for it. EOC offers free ways of getting out of binds and stuns. Um, I think there actually is a couple ways you could get out of stuns before. I could be very wrong, but I can't think of what they would be. But yeah, EOC does offer that, but it's in the terms of their abilities. Um, and I don't know if this person was mainly because of maybe PvP situations that they're thinking about this or talking about it a lot. Um, but I don't think this situation is really going to be a big deal other than in PvP situations. And a lot of the newer combat is being focused more towards the EOC. My assumption is that Legacy is eventually going to be a thing of the past. Eventually, Jagex is going to keep going with the EOC way, and eventually, Legacy is going to have less and less content they can use to the point where it dwindles down because unless you want to advance too, you're going to have to, go with the curve. I think long term they actually do want Legacy to be gone, as good as it is. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think they're just trying to slowly push people in that direction. It says about it doesn't make sense to have another combat system that punishes people for using it. Um, Legacy people are not being punished. Okay, keep this in mind. It's You're not being punished for using Legacy. They already made adjustments to the skilling, the triggers, the revolution of how it goes, how often they can use abilities. They weakened a lot of abilities to actually match up with Legacy, and they buffed a lot of base attacks in Legacy to match up with EOC. So they did already do a lot of balancing to it. So to actually say that they're punishing Legacy players for that combat style, they're not. It's just you're choosing to play an outdated system. And they're working on going further in these systems and making them better. So they're not punishing you, you're punishing yourself for not being willing to go in the direction the game wants to go, the developers want to go. And essentially they do need to do these kind of things, otherwise there's a limit on how much they can do. I might only be covering this topic for this video. Okay, so here's some of their proposals is make numbing roots, break stuns, and give immunity alongside of stopping bleeds similar to freedom and make it a common drop to bring down the price. I don't know. It would be actually a possible thing, but that item would have to have a cooldown in between uses. And I don't think there is a way to stop bleeding. Freedom, I don't believe does that. Freedom only breaks stuns. And then you have the immunity as long as it is active. So I think they might be missing some information there. Also says give Legacy an easily obtained item like a low level potion that works similar to regenerate, which allows for the regeneration of life points outside of combat. Regeneration of life points outside of combat does exist. It's very slow, and it's the exact same as the old system. It was slow then, and it's slow now. And then also make Legacy cost the same amount of runes as / ammunition as EOC. Again, it's not that the spells cost less, it's just that the abilities don't require runes. Now I can see later down the road they could make, abilities actually require the runes to use them. I think that's actually more than fair. As far as like ammunition goes, if you're using Ava's alert or Ava's accumulator, stuff like that, you're not really going to be worrying too much about ammunition as is, because that usually, even with that, really wasn't a big deal. Um, the the main things I'm seeing for in this post alone is the fact that they feel like they're being punished for using Legacy. But see, the thing of it is, Legacy is actually on par as far as damage goes. The only thing that's really actually missing is some of the new perks that came with EOC. So people wanted Legacy. They wanted Legacy's interface, like the old style interface. They wanted the old style play. They wanted the old style combat. Um, so adding all these other things is trying to negate that and having all the uses of EOC without actually using EOC. And that's not the whole point of Legacy, at least in my opinion and my theory. So I understand they want things to be more equal, but for what it is, for what it was meant to be, I think it's actually right on par of where it needs to be. Mage Arena extension? Uh, yeah, actually would be kind of neat to see some more spells for the different gods. I do think that would actually be kind of neat. And they're saying about having passive effects with these type of spells. I don't think that's actually a bad idea. It would actually bring back the point of using the different types of spells. And what I would actually like to see on top of this is have more powerful versions of these. Like, okay, for instance, like the Flames of Zamrock. Make that be the most powerful magic fire ability. Maybe not as far as, in terms of DPS goes, but right up there because it would have that passive effect. I think that would be really cool. Wilderness improvements. They have quite a bit here, so we'll cover that maybe in next week's video, but not for this week's. Uh, this is something I actually seen before, I've thought about before. I think it'd be a great idea. Currently in RuneScape, there's a key ring, and that key ring can hold certain types of rings, well, certain types of keys throughout RuneScape as you go through doing quests and different things like that. Um, I agree with Danny right here. It would be nice to actually just put that into the tool belt, but instead of just having it put into the tool belt, it would just be its own slot. Like how, well, I think somebody else is saying it down below here. It gains its own area. Like, you have your Slayer, you have your farming, you have your crafting. This would just be, uh, the key ring slot. And instead of only being able to put certain keys and certain keys only on the key ring, this would now, I think, if they do this, it should be able to include all keys. Not just a few keys or half the keys, all the keys, except for stuff like, the crystal keys, because those are consumable. So basically anything that's not consumable, I think all those keys should be able to be placed on it. And this way, you can always have them down the road in case you don't have them. Okay, this one is about the bar's loot mechanics. And it says about how the mechanics of the bars has always been a long-standing mystery to the players. In order to give a clearer image on how you run its progression, we replace the overall kill count with progress meters showing how far you gain towards maximum potential rewards. And that's OSRS, that's how they did it. A clearer image of what you would be getting. I'm not sure that's really actually necessary. And the way I say that is because no matter what, whenever you get down there, that should be your reward. I mean, they already have it to the point of where when you go into it, the stuff around you stops and you can loot it, you can pick and choose what you want to get, and then that's it. I don't really think there's really more need to actually expand upon it. The loot system is actually pretty good right now. Just clear out the room and you really won't have any issue. On to the next one. 2 ring slots. This one has been going on for a while. I don't know if this is the person that's been doing it since the beginning, but I wanted to include this because I actually seen it again and I was just like, you know what, I would love this. And it would actually really be helpful because you could have 2 different types of keys throughout the whole thing. Well, 2 types of rings, sorry. So it would be actually kind of nice to have at least 2 ring slots for people. This way, people could use a combat ring, they could use the ring of wealth, they could use a defensive ring and an attack ring, um, stuff like that. And the main thing that they're trying to get through with this is that if you use 1 ring, you can't use a second copy of the second ring. The thing I think might be the issue with this is actually the coding. I think what they would end up having to do is a lot like they did with the main hand, offhand weapons, is they would actually have to generate a whole new code for every single ring. This way they'd have to generate 2 codes. One for the ring that is normally released right now. This way it goes on the one hand, and then the offhand ring would go on the other hand. So essentially they would have to actually make 2 rings, which would be very beneficial in the beginning. It would actually change some things up, change the flow of cash for a little while. But I think that is probably the biggest issue, is they would have to create all these items again for an offhand variant. Because something tells me the coding would not allow them to do it unless they do that first. The last one is the mobilizing armies. I don't know if this is something they're actually going to ever rework. I personally would like to see this reworked. I do have, my own idea of how it should be reworked, and it's actually very similar. Well, it actually is what, eventually became my last video of the next skill slash minigame idea of, the mercenary skill, as I would call it, was essentially what started out as a mobilizing armies rework for me. Um, I would like to see it reworked. Maybe not in the sense of how they're presenting it, because I'm not. Yeah, the quest kits. Yeah, they could remove those. New ranks and titles. I don't see any point in that. Hard mode. If they did have AI, and just to go off on a little bit of a thing with mini games on them, this is something. When they mentioned about AI units, this is something that would actually be very beneficial to all their mini games. Let's say you do have a mini game that's, well, kind of dead or not being used, like, well, we'll just say Castle Wars, even though it's one of the most popular ones, at least that I believe. Um, if you're the only one that goes there, well, guess what? You're you're not going to get in. So what I think they should do is, however many people it takes to actually, the minimum it takes to actually have a mini game start, if there's not that many people in there when it's queued, let's say only one person goes there, you need 10 people total. Well, let's say that other 10, well, that other 9, because there is one person there, that other 9 goes into an AI. And now I think it's very possible, because Jagex has been showing a lot of AI interaction. And I think it would be very possible for them to do this down the road. And that would be fantastic. I think that would actually fix a lot of mini games, because then the people who want to play these mini games would be playing these mini games. Right now, there's just only select people who play mini games, and that's it. And it's mostly people going for their comp capes. This, the idea of reworking it, having an AI in it, I agree with him 100%, Delta Slug. I agree with you 100% of that. I do think they should be having an AI mixture into this. And if they have that, that'd probably solve a lot of issues with people actually not playing mini games. It'd bring a lot of people back into playing mini games. So, let me know what you guys think down below. If you guys have any suggestions that you want to go over, or any ideas you have that you want to go over, feel free to talk to me. We can talk about it, in game, somewhere else, and we'll talk about it. And if you want to see it featured in a video, just let me know. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, later, guys.